I have the pleasure today of being joined by Nicola Gerber. Now, Nicole is the Vice President for Asia Pacific and Japan at Fastly. Nicole, great to see you. Thanks for making time to catch up with me.
Thanks so much, Des, for having me here too. It's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed. So, for our audience, just to outline what we're going to cover today, we're going to chat a little bit about Nicole's background and her role there at Fastly. We're going to deep dive into the company, get a bit of background on the organization itself and their offerings and services and capabilities. And then we talk about the BeerOps Platinum sponsorship at both Melbourne and Sydney events that Fastly have taken up, and a whole range of other fun things. Nicole, I wonder if you could maybe just kick us off with a little bit of background on yourself and how you came to be in this amazing role at Fastly as Vice President for both Asia Pacific and Japan.
Hey, I think that's a great question. So first of all, I've been in the industry for the last two and a bit decades. So I've always been in tech technically in my whole career. Before joining Fastly, I was at AWS, and before that with Cisco systems. And it's been quite a ride, really. And I think it's only natural that, as you continue to look what's happening out there with our customers, particularly at the edge. It's come a bit of a convergence, I think, of what technologies need to offer and the customer problem statements around AI applications and workload heavy migrations and what to do there. So there's a lot of problem statements that I think Fastly actually answers. And so it wasn't with very much hesitation that when I got to speak with Fastly, that it really piqued my interest in our opportunity here, particularly in the Asia Pacific region, that I could maybe help out with and work, Fastly's magic to our customers.
Yeah, and it's a brand that people have known for a long time. The company's been around for a long time. They've been delivering a wide range of services. And as you said, these days things are converging in particularly the edge of the network. When we think about, the bulk of, I guess, applications and systems and content being sort of in the cloud, as it were, in hyperscalers and delivered at the edge of the network. When I did a bit of homework around the current things that sort of, what I thought I knew about Fastly and then what sort of, what the website and the company talks about now, it was this very broad range of things that I'd love to dive into in a bit, but whether it's actually building the capabilities, everything from storage to delivery, and not just, I guess, a content delivery network, but a full suite or a full stack of capabilities there, including the network, the security, the compute, observability and monitoring, load balancing, etc. Walk us through sort of Fastly's sort of last, sort of decade or so, and then how they sort of got to where they are now and the types of challenges they can help clients face, address as they face that on a day-to-day basis with this brave new world we're working in.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll take you a little bit a step back if that's okay, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
please do.
you said Fastly's been around for a while, right? It's been around since 2011, and some of the testaments of Fastly platform really comes from our customers. Recently, we also just received a very humbling award again from our Gartner Customer Choice for our WAP product. 7 years in a row it's been, and so it's kind of a great time for me personally joining. But then to also hear that the customers are so loyal to this platform has also been great. But for the Asia Pacific region, does like it's still relatively young in its footprint. So having said that, Australia and Japan have been maybe more established than other markets here in the APJ area. But if you think about this, I've also only been here for the last 4 or so months, and it's the first time that Fastly has really invested in a role like mine. And so, Fastly's beginnings essentially was really, it rocked the traditional CDN world in quite a few ways. So one being, that at the time there were a few problem statements for customers with traditional CDN. Data was becoming more and more dynamic. Also, customers wanted more personalization and APIs. And so the traditional CDNs just struggled to handle this. And it would cost customers revenue and their own customers, again, in turn, right? Like, so if they weren't happy with the experience, they would just lose them. And it could also take traditional CDN minutes or even hours at that time to update the cache content, configurations, or even secure rules. And so Fastly actually came in. Artur was the founder of Fastly, or is the founder of Fastly, and he was a customer himself. So he experienced it all, and he decided to build this edge cloud platform with real-time caching and instant purges to address this specifically, so that he could reduce the latency significantly. Hence the name
Yeah.
Fastly. So the other thing was that developers were also needing to adapt to the edge and to the application logic, and not really the other way around. This is like something that he was particularly passionate about. So a lot of the traditional CDNs couldn't easily customize routing, caching, and logic or even edge behavior. So for Fastly, it was really built to be more programmable at the edge. And this is why it's fundamentally based on VCL and now WebAssembly-based compute at edge, as what we call it. And that allows the developers to write custom logic at the edge. And then finally, a lot of the security aspects around these applications were basically bolted on with a lot of the traditional CDNs. And we had the opportunity in the platform to actually build it in, as a newcomer to the CDN and into its edge network. And so this gives customers a performance and security model without forcing the trade-offs that you usually have with bolted-on models. And then probably finally, and this is just back to its origins, was that the limited visibility, that you would get through, traditional CDNs was something that was slowing down troubleshooting. So Fastly allows real-time logs, metrics to customers' preferred tools, and better integration really with third-party observability platforms like New Relic or Datadog nowadays, right? So in short, people who care about Fastly is because it solves limitations of their traditional CDN, and it replaced real-time experiences and developer-friendly programmable edge services to improve and secure and control everything at the edge. That is what Fastly was originally known for. But since I came from AWS, since I've been here and listening to our customers, I can tell you that many of them are talking about their problem statement today, which is very much relating to AI. And their biggest issues is that their customers expect real-time, reliable, and personalized experiences from anywhere and from any device. And that is why a lot of our customers' AI applications have become core to their digital products. So it's either powering up chatbots, it's powering up personalization or recommendations, et cetera. You name it, they've got it, right? But the problem is that AI can be really super expensive. It's data heavy and it's very vulnerable if it's not deployed correctly. And so if it's unreliable and slow in their experiences, our customers' biggest fear is losing their revenue and, of course, ultimately their customers, happiness and therefore also their customers ultimately. So
Yeah.
Fastly took that platform that they have and the strengths that they know, and the fact that we are so good with dealing with heavy workloads and data heavy and dynamic content. It isn't just a CDN anymore, as you know it today. In today's AI-driven world, it's a real-time edge compute and security platform. It brings the AI application closer to the user and can handle the data explosion that you get because of the dynamic traffic it actually drives. It leverages our built-in security capabilities. We can also secure AI endpoints against other like known attacks, like DDoS and bot attacks, and it gives the developers effectively the control and velocity to innovate faster than their competitors. And so this is why it's become really, really relevant for our customers now. And this is why also I'm excited to be with Fastly, to be able to deliver this to our customers. But I would like to elevate that more. And so here I am.
There you go. Well, there's no better champion for the brand than you. I had a conversation with a couple of DevOps and hardcore network folk in my world about the brand itself. And one of the things that came back was this idea that it's a programmable network for them. As you said, they can make real-time changes, whether it was within the Varnish configuration language itself, the open source HTTP accelerator you guys have, whether it's the ability to purge something straight away. So in one case, without going to the brand, they had an incident where a database dump had been put somewhere that was publicly available. it had been picked up accidentally because it was in the cacheable space, they were able to purge it immediately, ensuring that it was never going to get breached. Human error, but of course they were able to fix it immediately because they used your infrastructure.
Oh, I love you did your homework, Des.
That that was not going to be possible with one of your competitors. It was going to sit there for days or hours, and even down to setting TTLs or time to live, where something could be expired immediately. They also talked broadly, at the risk of sounding sycophantic, around the various things you spoke about, which is the ability to build intelligence into the edge of the network, whether it was on mobile interface, whether it was on a tablet interface, whether it was on a laptop or a big screen, whether it was somewhere out on a device. They love the ability to configure per edge point and whatever. And I think one of the guys suggested it that basically you guys filled gaps for them. So in some cases they may use more than one CDN, but they use you guys to fill gaps. And I really like that. And I think that's something that I'd like to get into in a minute with regard to what's coming up with regard to your platinum sponsorship for BeerOps. And congratulations on that. And thank you for supporting these great events. Because and BeerOps, it's described as Australia's largest tech networking event. Those two events that you sponsored both Melbourne and Sydney, I believe, at platinum level, and folk can come and see you there. But this is a great chance for people to have those very conversations around kind of, how do they fill those gaps? How do they fix these things? How do they get access to that sort of quote unquote programmable network? Because that's not something that all of your competitors do. In many cases, they're all sort of set and forget and hope it doesn't change.
Yeah.
Before we dive into that sponsorship, though, in the event itself, I wonder if just quickly we can talk about sort of, when you mentioned you've been there for a few months, it's an exciting new start, but is there such a thing as a standard day in the life? What's a day in the life of Nicole Gerber like in
Oh,
your role
man.
of VP at Asia Pacific and Japan? It's a very big region, and as you said, you've worked for some very large brands before. You've had a lot of experience in space, but APJ has its own quirks. You're based there in Singapore, but I'm sure you get a lot of frequent flyer mileage. But is there such a thing as a standard day in the life? What's a day in the life like currently? What sort of conversations are you having? What sort of challenges are you
Yeah.
helping clients face? I'd love to get a little insight into that.
Well, hey, you know what? It's never boring. That's one thing I can say.
That's a
And
good thing.
it's wildly different from coming from large. I've done both small and large
Yeah,
organizations, and they're slightly different, but it's always the same problem statements, right? At the end of the day. But I guess like at the end of the day, my position and anybody in my role would really be to advocate for their customers on a daily basis, advocate for the team, and of course, advocate for the business, right? I think those are kind of like the core functions of what we do day in, day out. It's like what we wake up thinking about and, we go to sleep with. But this means I have to constantly be connected with all of these stakeholders, right? Like, and the time zones aren't always the best here. I think in Asia Pacific, I think it's 7 hours to Japan, 7 hours to Australia, three and a
yeah,
half hours to India, like, and I mean 6 hours to Korea, et cetera, right? Like, so it's like long distances is nothing like, perhaps in Europe, for example, where it's just mostly 2 to 3 hours, right? Unless they're going to Africa or the Middle East. But I often, have to really think about like how to actually divide that work. And most mornings and evenings are really reserved for my U.S. counterparts, because we are an American company and they're all based there. So I actually have a lot of my calls and meetings there, Dad. So it starts like that and ends like that to summarize any day that I actually have. But during the day, I basically spend it a lot with our partners and our customers. I'm often on the road. I'm rarely actually in Singapore, that we mostly live on a plane or in other countries because of what we do. But you want to be proximate to the customers and the partners that we work with. So I'm often with them. I work alongside our partners. We try and figure out, how to unlock our customers' biggest problems. And then with the customers, really trying to understand, what else do they need? And being that advocate for them means that I need to bring that also back to the US. And that's how we also look to innovate here at Fastly,
right.
bringing that voice of the customer back. But also, of course, we have our teams across the country. So my engagement will be when I am with them in the offices is really to look at deal coaching and sitting on strategic account reviews. But so what makes this really, and I think I'm digressing here, but I think
It's
what
okay.
makes this really unique for the Asia Pacific region is really the time zone juggling, diversity of the markets, the
Right.
cultural nuances, and then the travel heavy, and of course, the revenue responsibility that comes with all of that.
Yes.
So that's my life, I think, day in, day out. I got to say though, I absolutely love this region for all those reasons. I do wish sometimes it was a bit closer to each other, so that it wasn't so much flight time. But I got to say, it's what makes this place pretty special. And like I enjoy the fast pace of it all. I think I am convinced and sold on the fact that the places like Australia and regions like India and Indonesia and Thailand and so on in Southeast Asia, they're like, I always say this, less than 50% or more, sorry, more than 50% of their population is like less than 30 years old.
Yeah,
So they're consuming our technology and all these new things that are coming up in the tech arena, and they're going to define how this is going to end or how it's going to continue, how it's going to continue to
absolutely.
evolve, right? Like so, I love it, quite frankly, and I feel very privileged to have an opportunity here.
Well, you're definitely one of the loveliest places in the world, and I'm no stranger to hanging out in Sentosa Island for the weekend. And if I'm ever in the region, I do tend to just leave the weekend to set aside and fly home Sunday night for those very reasons. And a bit of chili crab never goes astray. In
Especially
fact,
after that one. Yeah.
I've even been known to jump on a ferry and go across to one of the Indonesian islands and get a decent laksa as well. But I love that you mentioned the diversity of all of that, and although I personally love being on a plane because it gives me a bit of disconnect time, and I'm not very fond of them offering Starlink so I can be online because I don't like being disturbed. But the diversity that you're dealing with, you've got the US time zone sort of hitting you at the end of the day, I guess, and then you've got the rest of it hitting you at the start of the day, and then you've got the middle of the day to deal with. You're juggling a lot there, but then I guess that's all part of the magic of what Fastly does, of distributing your time around these regions. But one of the things that struck me there was you talked about the diversity of it all, and you know, thinking about the event that you've sponsored here at BeerOps, both in Melbourne and Sydney as a platinum sponsor. The diversity of that event, Australia's largest tech networking event, is one of the things that I loved, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it at the moment. And that is that not just the traditional sort of DEI diversity we would often hear about, but the diversity of age brackets and roles and responsibilities and industries where it could be someone with your level of seniority, it could be a graduate, it could be somebody who's had 15 years in banking but now wants to move into airlines and aviation. And you're all under one roof at the same time, mingling. And even though it's called beer ops, if you're like me, you don't drink alcohol, there's plenty of non-alcoholic beverages to have, or if you're the designated driver. But for an event like that with so much diversity, what do those types of events bring to Fastly? Like, what attracts you to an event like that? Because I imagine, beyond some of the obvious marketing and sales opportunities, it's probably a good chance to sort of get some of that 3D experience with human beings that we haven't had for a while since the lockdowns and so forth. What the sponsorship of an event like BeerOps, particularly the two events in Melbourne and Sydney, what attracted you to the event, and what does Fastly get out of these kind of big community events?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great question because at the end of the day, there are a lot of tech events, and a lot of it has pivoted online, though, unfortunately, right? Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of these webcast webinars, and so I like what you said about like 2D to 3D. I mean, Fastly's been sponsoring BeerOps, ExecOps, and for a very long time, and me being new to this. I'm extremely excited as actually to not only come face to face with a lot of the people that consume this technology, but like I said, will define the way this technology will need
yeah,
to pivot to or continue to innovate. So I feel like there's a great opportunity for learning and networking and really just listening a lot to what it is that they're curious about. The education piece is one part of it. Like I think that's great from a marketing standpoint, always for a brand like us, particularly like I said, where we're still a relatively juvenile, I think, in the Asia Pacific region, even in the Australia market. And so I think we have a lot of work still to do there. But that said, it's not just that. It is the fact that you have such a diverse range of people, also in experience and in age, that come with different opinions and ideals of what may be. That I do think that it's a great place to really combine all of that, walk
yeah.
away, not just having left maybe hopefully a footprint and shared exchanged knowledge, but actually walk away with, being able to reset and reassess, are we doing all the right things for our customers and ultimately the users in our platform, and then being able to communicate that back and see if we can continue to innovate ourselves so that we remain relevant. and that we continue to do things that are relevant for these people. So I'm excited. I can't wait to actually go.
Yeah, and I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like for me, for example, and I'm sure it's the case for you, but I'd love to get your thoughts on this, that for a lot of these events, it's a great chance to meet some of your existing customers, of course, but you're already talking to many of them, but not necessarily in the context of a slightly more relaxed environment where there isn't a sales pitch or whatever, but maybe there is a demo, and you can have a bit more of an off-the-record conversation about some of the pros and cons of the challenges they're facing, but also to tap into kind of what I often talk about as what I would refer as reverse mentoring, and that is, as you said, a large portion, if I think you mentioned like nearly half of the age bracket in this region in particular is under say 30 or so, and they are coming up through the ranks. They're getting more and more experience. They're getting longer careers. They're getting bigger checkbooks to spend with, as it were. That probably just aged me. But it's a chance to have those conversations with those people who are creating new ideas that would be made even more successful if they knew about you and were able to leverage you. This is the chance to have those conversations and just sort of dap into that, because I like to go into these things with the idea that I'm going to get more out of talking to some of this community than they will get from me necessarily, because they've got the new ideas, they've got the new approaches, they're doing some of the low code, no code development, they're doing DevOps, they're doing all sorts of automated orchestration. Is that the case as well? I imagine for you guys to sort of get out there and just put your finger in the sort of the pie, or dip a thermometer into the temperature, what's going on around the industry, to even potentially learn from sort of under a reverse mentoring from some of the people who are thinking up things that we haven't even seen yet.
You know what? It's such a great point that you're making there. A very big advocate, actually, of mentoring and just diversity in general. Actually, we launched a Women in Tech lunch at our Accelerate, which is our biggest. It's our flagship event for customers in Sydney for Australia. We had that in August, and it was just a fantastic event. But at the same time, when we launched this luncheon, it was really to talk about a relevant topic. But what we did walk away from that one, and that was with our customers and our partners, by the way. We walked away thinking, here we are, we're all in the tech community, and we all have different angles of tech, right? You're either a customer, vendor, partner, whatever, right? Like, doesn't really matter. Now it's a level playing field, but we all have experience. And some of the things we talked about were, the younger generation, like how can we make sure that we are supporting it? And,
Yeah.
how can they tap into us? And so, yes, 100%. When you come to me, like that is something you can talk about, right? Like I can either put you in touch with some of our customers who are happily, like they would love this, right? Like the partnership that we talk about is not just at a technical level and just to sell through or sell to. The partnerships we're talking about is when we say trusted advisor, not just this subject matter expert, you are in fact a trusted advisor because you have relations, because you're dealing with things that are greater than us too. For example, this, how can we actually help influence more? And then, obviously, it doesn't matter to us in what gender you're feeling in,
Hmm.
but at this point, I'm very big into like trying to make sure that more women do stay connected
Yeah.
in technology. Being one myself here and knowing how hard it's been and it's gone backwards a little bit. But so absolutely, that's an area that I'm super excited about with your event and. Um, outside of that, like how to continue to learn when it's Fastly specific. So there's you're here career, what can we do? What does it look like? Like how can I help? How can you help me get to some place? But the other one is on the technical side. If you did want to get to know Fastly more, some of the perks actually of coming to an event like this, and also afterwards, if you did want to sign up and listen in, was really around the free Fastly accounts that we allow these developers, architects, and engineers, and anybody who's actually there to come visit. They actually get access to this too. So then you
Wow.
get to play around with the technology too, Des, right? Like so, on both levels. On a personal like career pathing, anything like technology, get to know Fastly as a high level, or if
Mhm.
you want to just tinker with the technology, you can absolutely do any of that. And I like that about the event too.
Wow, I love that actually. And in fact, I think that's something that everyone should come and see you about, Nicole, on the nights at both the events is that very conversation, which is how do I get my hands on it? There is no better way than to get a bit of self-teaching experience. And I think we all know that these days kids learn from sort of that YouTube type online learning, getting their
Totally.
hands on it. And every other hyperscaler is leveraged that of giving away those free tiers. So I'm going to try that myself, actually. I wasn't actually aware that you did that at that level. So I think everybody should jump on board, sign up and try a free one and get your hands on it and just crash and burn something, learn from it, kick your toes on it. When I went through your website as well, just to give you a little bit of a free plug here, there's a lot of documentation, a lot of stuff on your learning center that you've got an enormous resource library there. You've got stuff around You've got a whole security research space, and even just reading your blogs, there's a lot to be learned from that. So I do recommend all of our audience, and wherever you see this, whether it's on our YouTube channel, on Vidneon.com, or on social media posts, we will have links to both the Fastly website and all the relevant resources, and links to the company's LinkedIn page and Nicole, of course. But highly recommend you go to the website, bookmark it, stay across all the news in the newsroom, the latest blogs, but look at all the documentation that's available, the Learning Center and the resource library particularly. Obviously, the cybersecurity stuff is interesting. And as you said, get a free account and try it out. There is just no substitute for that. When I think about the other side of the coin now, so when we thought you're hopefully going to get a great deal from this event yourselves and tap into that sort of mindset that's there. But for attendees, one of the things I'm always very keen for people to do, and I was given this advice very young, I think I was about 17 when someone actually gave me this idea, which is do your homework before you go to any of these events. Don't just turn up cold and think you're going to just, randomly connect, So I often advise people, do a bit of homework, go do some web searching, read the blogs, get to know the people, check their LinkedIn profiles. What do you advise people with these sorts of events? Because you do a lot of them, you do them all around the world, particularly Asia Pacific and Japan that you cover. What's the best way to get the best out of your Platinum sponsorship for an attendee in both the Melbourne and Sydney events to sort of, pre-event? What sort of homework should they do? How should they best prepare for it? So when they come and meet you, have a conversation with you, it isn't just about the hot beverages you're both enjoying, but specifically about the company, the trends, the things that you can help them with.
Yeah, I think you said such a great thing. Do your homework, know the organizations that are actually going to be there, understand, what they may basically have an offer. But at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to the trends. I think your curiosity around some of what's happening today and where it's going to go moving forward, and what the opinions of these different vendors are going to be really, really good questions, right? Like you really want to challenge us, I think, and come in and how much do we really know about what is happening out there. But at the same time, Des, I think I might be losing you because it's
That's
showing.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. But at the same time, like I feel like um, it's also a nice opportunity for you to give your opinions, right? And so
Yeah.
I gotta say, in school, I wasn't always the one who did homework.
You and me
But,
both.
but I was always the one who asked questions. And so to anybody, and just to maybe wrap this up nicely, to anybody, it's like, bring all your questions. There is no bad questions. It's really an opportunity for you to kind of come in, get to know. But when you use your time, like structure it and what do you want, know what you want to get out of it. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Questions are there to be asked, not to like just take the time. Questions are there to be asked to get the information that you want out of it. And so think about what you want to ask us, challenge us with, so that you can assess for yourself on, what would really be good for you, and or the environment that you're in. But that's what we're there for. We're really looking forward to the conversation, Des. And a lot of people who know me, I am highly approachable, sometimes to the point where I have a little bit of ADHD and I like look left and right. But yeah, so absolutely, just come ask your questions.
I
Maybe
love
take that
that.
word out, by the way.
Yeah, great advice. Absolutely great advice. Um, with all that in mind, post-event also for me is a big part of these things. So it's great to do your homework to get ready for the event, respect your time, respect your team's time, respect the brand's time with your demos and conversations and presentations on the booth, etc., on the nights, both in Melbourne and Sydney. But post-event, for folk who may be sitting at the desk and thinking, I don't know how to solve this problem. I need something that is edge network. I need something that can do content delivery. I can need to do live streaming. I really need something that is effectively a fully programmable network and an environment around that. I want real-time monitoring. What's the ideal sort of flow or journey that a customer would go through that the attendees can sort of think of? If I do my homework, I come along and have a chat to Nicole and the team, and then in a few months' time they have a challenge. What's the sort of normal or the ideal customer journey like from sort of an outreach and, hey, we've got this challenge. What can we do through some initial consulting advisory work through to then maybe a proof of concept and a trial and rolling it out? What are the sort of the 2 to 3, 5 steps that sort of you recommend people think about when they're sitting at the desk and they're looking at a bit of technology, thinking, I don't know how to do this, and I need a partner to do that, and Fastly might be it. What does an ideal journey look like post-event so they can sort of think about, okay, plan for the event. I've had some great conversations. Where to from here?
Yeah. Well, Fastly has traditionally actually worked very direct with the customers. And like you can always contact us directly, right? Like and be it through the homepage or actually through because you have our cards and you get our
Hmm.
numbers and our email addresses. Absolutely you can do that. We do recommend because we do want to work with partners and we do actually see the success of working with partners actually to scale for our customers ultimately because it's a bigger problem. It's not just like one thing that they're looking at. It's maybe one point of statement that they're looking at architecturally, and partners are just beautifully primed to be able to do this end to end. So often you can also just go straight to a partner. You might have an incumbent partner with whom you like to work with. You can go to them and they can come to us too. So it's easy enough for these partners to actually reach out to us just like you would directly at this point. But ideally, we actually work with them and we combine efforts so that we're not just looking at one thing. Like I said, it's going to be a whole architectural approach that we can serve you correctly with.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, is that from your outreach, you're likely to provide them the ideal partner to work with because those
Yeah,
partners may be in a particular niche. They may be in banking and financial services, or in
that's right. That's
insurance, and maybe in transport, logistics, aviation, state government, federal government. There is a great resource on the fastly.com website that I'm going to give you a quick drop for, which is fastly.com/partners. Jump on there and figure out whether you need a cloud partner or a channel partner, whether it's a MSSP or an MSP, whether it's a value-add reseller, some form, or an integrator. Somewhere there in that ecosystem will be able to help. And I believe there's a resource there where you can go and find them directly there to save you maybe a hop. But again, do some more homework on the website and look at what is the best fit. I'm sure they all want to have a conversation with you anyway. To wrap us up, Nicole, I wonder, I mean, you've given us a lot of great insights there, and I do recommend wherever people see this, click on the links, visit the website, have a look at all the resources, the case studies, the news, learn from the resource library and so forth, and some of the education material. Bookmark the website and keep across the blogs and the updates. Follow Nicole on LinkedIn, so forth, for her own posts and updates and her amazing travel. But for folk who want to keep up to date post-event, they've come and met you, they've done their homework, had a great conversation. They may not have a problem to solve immediately, but in a few months they do. What's the best way for them to keep up to date with not just Fastly, the company itself, but also you and what your movements are, so they can be across all the latest announcements and news and insights that you're publishing on a regular basis?
Oh, well, thank you. I think LinkedIn is probably the most popular way
Hmm.
to stay in touch with me. Since coming to Fastly, I think I've never been on social media more. So go ahead and come and follow. I'd be more than happy to address any questions also directly. I've had a lot of customer outreaches actually through LinkedIn itself because of what we posted. We have a lot of our reports. I publish through my LinkedIn profile as well. Like the recent one with
Hmm.
that 80% of the traffic trajecting is bot traffic now. Like all of that kind of goodness of reports, it all get published there. But then also, we do have a blog site on Fastly website. So if you actually go to that site, that's another great way of actually following like what's happening and what's the latest and greatest.
Fantastic. And I did notice the younger generation, Instagrammers and TikTokers, I hate to admit it, but there's two young adults in my house who just tell me that they're not interested in reading newspapers and magazines. They're just going to get it from Instagram. So you've got a great LinkedIn company page. You've got an amazing Instagram feed
We do have
as well as a
Instagram.
YouTube channel. So fastly.com is the place to go to. Have a look at all the resources. On the bottom of the page, there are direct links to their LinkedIn company page, to the Instagram feed, and to the YouTube channel. And wherever people see this conversation, we will, as I said earlier, have links to all of those resources. Make sure you click on them, bookmark them, follow them, whatever the case may be. And also, lastly, join the conversation. So for our audience who's tuned in and had all these great insights that you've shared, Nicole, one of the things that I also say is if for some reason you cannot be at the event in person, you can join that conversation online in digital and social. You can comment on the Instagram posts and get feedback. You can comment on the YouTube videos and get feedback. And you can join the conversation in the feed, either on your professional LinkedIn feed on what you're sharing, but also the company. So the company puts out an update, post your questions there. The team are always listening, always on, ready to have a conversation. And if the opportunity arises and there's a need to, they'll email you and connect you with the right person, potentially a value-add reseller, integrator, an ISV, etc. But yeah, bookmark the website, keep across what's there, and follow it on digital and social, and join that conversation, even if you're not able to make the events. Nicole, congratulations on the platinum sponsorship for Stephen Wallace and his team's BeerOps events in Sydney and Melbourne. They're on Melbourne, I think, is the 22nd of October, but double check those dates, and at beerops.io, and Sydney's on October the 28th. We'll look forward to seeing you and your team there in person. In the meantime, safe travels as you make your way around APJ. Look forward to seeing you in person and your team in Melbourne, Sydney. And we will definitely have you back on for a further conversation because there's a million other great questions I've got for you. But I know we've got limited time today. So, Nicole, thanks for your time. It's been wonderful to catch up with you. And I look forward to seeing you at the events in person and have you back on the show again soon.
Thank you so much, Des. Have a great rest of the day and pre-happy birthday for tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes. Let there be
Good.
cake. Thanks,
Yes,
Nicole. See you
bye-bye.
soon.